probably my favorite document I've ever seen in my life, which is the report of the committee for our reaffirmation, where right up here it says Appendix C, list of recommendations cited in the report of the reaffirmation committee. None. Almost no colleges get to see this, so I think it's worth celebrating. So let's pause for a minute and look at what everyone did for the last 5 years to help us get to 0. Okay, so this is what we recorded for 3311, and this is where you would be if you were an instructional program. These are all the words we speak about what we think about how we scroll, 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 scroll. There's a lot to this. You can see this chart right here, which is everyone's, years and years of everyone reporting and their end of cycle. And so this is everyone from the instructional or curriculum areas here. So you can see all of this hard work is how we end up getting to 0 for our reaffirmation. And it's the same thing for 3312, 3312, scroll down there. Office, Business Services, Civic Center Foundation. So these are part of our service areas. 3313, if you scroll down a little bit, it's the same thing. So Academic Assistance Center, Admissions and Counseling, Library, TRIO programs, Veterans Affairs, same thing. And so when the on-site committee came and they actually wanted to interview 7 different people to make sure that we were doing our outcomes and assessment correctly. That, you all don't know, that's a lot of interviews. That's a lot of making sure that we knew what we were talking about. So it wasn't just IDR people, it was department chairs, I think it was Denise. It was Denise, I forgot about that. Denise got to answer questions for our on-site committee. So she had to talk about all the hard work that you all have all done. And just remember, what you all do now and in the next 5 years determines what happens with our review. One other anecdote that I think is really amusing is they actually went and visited the prisons, or the prison, and so while they were at the prison, they asked the prisoners what they knew about outcomes and assessment, and so the prisoner students had talked about it, and then the instructors that teach at HCI, they also had to answer all these questions about outcomes and assessment that were not related to those 7 interviews. So the committee was really wanted to make sure that everyone on our campus knew about outcomes and assessment. Okay, so that takes us to why is assessment important? So I feel like there are 2 reasons why assessment is important. There's the extrinsic reason and there's the intrinsic reason. So the extrinsic reason is external to us, and that is because SACS-COC wants us to do outcomes and assessments. And have defined their cycle over here on the right-hand side. I find this a little odd. I feel like this should be a circle, but they wanted to do this odd little graph. So they want us to identify expected outcomes, identify appropriate ways to measure these outcomes, assess the achievement of outcomes, analyze what the results mean, use results for improvement, and then repeat the entire process. And out of all of these things on this page, number 5 is the most important reason of why we do outcomes and assessment. If we're thinking about reasons external to our school, and that's the use of results for improvement. That's the only reason we do outcomes and assessment, is to see what we're doing, identify something that we can do a little bit better, gather data about it, and then make plans of how are we going to improve it, and then actually make those plans. Now just know sometimes those plans work, and sometimes they don't, and it's just a matter of adjusting things over and over. Before I head to the next page, you're going to see over here on the left-hand side, I mentioned that we have new standards as of January 1st related to outcomes and assessment. So instead of being in the 331s like we were before, we have now expanded to 7.3, 8.1, and 8.3. And we actually have an additional standard that we can talk about. Okay, so these are the external reasons why assessment is important. The internal reasons are, I feel like these are things you're already doing. You guys are already trying to improve things. You're already trying to make things better for your students. Because, that's why we're here. We wouldn't be able to continue graduating students because people wouldn't want to hire them if they don't know know that our students can do what we say. Okay, so assessment is a kind of action research that's intended to inform local action. It can provide an instrument for improvement, data for change, and a basis for wiser planning and budgeting changes in curriculum, pedagogy, staffing, program students. And here, again, good news. I know you're doing the assessment cycle already. These things are always changing at CCCC. Over here, I don't know if you all can see this very well, but on the left-hand side, we have a 1960s drafting and design photograph. So we don't do drafting and design like this anymore. We do it on computers. So this is an example of how things have changed to be adapted. That second picture, that is a lady doing distance education instruction using VHS tapes. We don't use VHS tapes anymore. And we do it using the internet. And I was thinking about this morning. It's crazy. We didn't even have a concept of the internet in the 1980s. So I don't know why that was interesting, but it was nice to reflect on. So that's what we were doing in the 80s. In the 90s, we have this Batman technology photograph. I have no idea what they're doing, but I can tell you, in the last 18 to 28 years, because that's how long it's been since the beginning of 1990, that also blew my mind. I'm sure a lot of things in Batman have changed. We have better technology, we have better medicine, we just have better everything. So again, we start thinking about outcomes assessment because of SAC-COC, but we're already doing it because we have to respond to changes that are going to happen, right? And because we want to make things better first. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about reporting and compliance assess. Actually, I have some handouts for you, so let me pause here for a second before I talk about these duties. I have some instructional areas. Help us out for just a minute. And actually, please, if you could switch, because that one's the instructional one, and that one's the service. So while you're getting your handout right now, let's talk about due dates. These due dates, again, are set by your vice president or your team. If you need to change them, you can talk with them about that. But for this year, learning and workforce development, your due date is June 1st, unless you're an HCI or unless you're in a health-related area. So health-related areas, that's everyone that reports to Lisa and to Lisa. So those are due July 31st. Next, service areas. This has a wide variety of due dates. So business office and purchasing. So anyone that reports to Philip, or Dr. Rice, I should say, theirs will be due on May 31st. Because I've heard that June is really. So that's why their due date is May 31st. Student services, their due date is June 30th. The foundation and the learning workforce development services area, your due date is July 31st. All other service areas are also July 31st, unless you're in student outreach and recruitment. They don't get their data for the year until the middle of October. So theirs is due on October 31st. So on the back side of the handout I just gave you, you have reporting requirements depending on if you're a service area or if you're an instructional area. I'm going to talk about the service area first. So what you're looking at right here on the left-hand side, these are all the sections you see when you report for outcomes and assessment. And we'll look at what this looks like in compliance assessment in just a second. But you have 7 different sections that you have to respond to if you're a service area. So first one is service area information. Who is going to respond to that? This is going to be the reporter. And is it required? Yes, it is. So basically the same pattern continues all the way through except for in a few, with a few exceptions. And the first exception is section number 3, quality and viability criteria. IER actually puts all the data in there for you, but you go in and you react to the data that's put in. And so for service areas, the data I'm talking about is a faculty and staff survey response for your area. or the enrolled student survey, or the graduate student survey. And so right now, the faculty and staff survey is complete, and all of that information is in Compliance Assist for you. The other two student ones are not finished yet and are not in Compliance Assist because in one case it's still open, and in another case it hasn't opened yet. So the enrolled student survey, that will close right before graduation, so mid-May. And then we'll analyze it for a few weeks, so it should be in there by the middle of June. And then the graduate survey, it is open through, I'm gonna say August 15th, because the health sciences programs, they graduate late in the summer. And so we need to be able to get everyone that graduates in May through the end of the summer. So that data won't be available until August. So if you need that data for your reporting, which off the top of my head, I don't think anyone's using a graduate survey for their actual outcomes assessment, let me know and we can talk about that. But I just wanted to give you an update of where all that is. Next, accomplishments and innovations for service areas. This is the only area that's optional, but I highly recommend you guys doing the accomplishments and innovations. It is my favorite part to look at when I look through everyone's outcomes and assessment pages, because it gives you an opportunity to brag on all the amazing things that you've done in the last year. Because I know from working with all these departments that you are doing amazing things and people need to know this. So if you put it in here, the person who does your review, they will be able to see this. And when you go do your report out for President's Council, you can open up your accomplishments and innovations and see all the wonderful things that we've done. Also, one thing that just jumped in my mind that I almost forgot about, Dr. Price does go through and print out everyone's outcomes and assessment pages. So if you have places that you can brag on yourself, I have heard, I don't know for sure, I've heard that you're more likely to get funding if you can connect your budget to your outcomes and assessments and also your accomplishments and innovations. So that's just another really good precedent. And then last, the only other exception here is that reviewer feedback. Reviewer is the one who goes through and gives you feedback on how you did doing outcomes and assessment, if they want you to grow in any way, if they want you to edit anything. So again, reviewers are most likely your dean or your vice president, depending on who you are. Okay, let's look at instructional areas. It's very similar, but they have some differences from service areas. The biggest difference is that they have this section 3, which is administrative outcomes and assessment. So they have section 2, which looks at student learning, and then section 3 looks at administrative outcomes. This is optional, but again, it's determined by your dean. And I know that some deans have required their entire area to report out on administrative outcomes. So in other words, that's something that you can change at a department chair level, like things that you do as a department chair to make for the people you supervise or for your students. And the one above that, student learning, is just straight, assessing what students learn, how you can improve it, and basically closing it with all of that. Again, section 4, quality and viability criteria. IER goes through and adds some quality and viability data for instructional areas. We have gone through and we've done that. That's probably like 10 different sections worth of data, and it's completely done for this year. Every year we get phone calls because people will let us know that they don't feel like their data is up to date. And from the outside, that's what it looks like, because it only goes through fall 2017 and not through spring 18. And that's because what we do is we send off all the data to the system office. The system office kind of processes it and puts it in some official database, and that's what everyone in the state uses to get their information back from. And then we have to go back with the data that we already sent to them to say that's like deficient. So that's how, that's why it's a little more complicated. The instructional areas also has accomplishments and innovations, and then they have the program review assessment that's done by the reviewer. Let's go ahead and log into Compliance Assist, and I will do that for everyone so I can give you a guided tour of how you can edit and what you can, how you can address your own assessment. Okay. So, my suggestion is find out if Firefox or Chrome works better for you, because we have reports that for some people, Firefox works really well. For other people, Chrome seems to work really well. For me personally, I like using Chrome when I use Compliance Assist, because otherwise it does weird things to my tables and makes my tables happen. I don't like that. But there are other people in my department that if they use Chrome, it makes their tables like shrink and like do weird things to the font, and it's not good. And so for a long time I just said, everyone should use Chrome. But that's not the case. My suggestion is experiment, find out which one works for you, and if it looks weird when you open it up, switch to another browser. That's not good for life. So, does everyone know how to get to this page? So once you get to this page, you have the welcome. If you need to get in touch with me, it has my email address here or my phone number. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have, or you can set up an appointment with me. Over here on the left-hand side, this is about outcomes and assessment. This is kind of what we're going over today, so we don't have to look at that. Next, everyone forgets once in a while what their recording calendar is or when things are due. So again, this is that handout that I gave you all earlier that's here, but it's just on this page. So you can refer back to this. From here we have contact us information. So again, here's my contact information. Here's my boss, or my Kelly. Or if you have technical issues, you can contact Compliance Assist directly. That's the company that provides this database for us. But also you're welcome to let us know, and we can class our instructions for navigating the site, but we're getting ready to navigate the site together right now, so we don't have to. Okay, so I don't know what your pages look like when you open up Compliance Assist, but for me, my red bar actually changes. So the first thing I like to do is go up in this upper left-hand corner and choose which section I have. I'm pretty sure that you all only have program review, but I'm going over this in the event that you do have options. So if you want to get into your outcomes assessment page, first thing you click on is program review. And then from here, the next thing we have to do after we click this program review is look at this big red bar right here. This is where we're going to do most of our navigating. I have a down arrow here, which allows me to switch between service areas, instructional programs, executive leadership reviews. Today, I'm just going to stick with service areas. And then from here, for me, it resets it so I have everyone access to everyone's outcomes assessment. So I'm going to scroll down until I get to institutional effectiveness and research, because we're going to use ours as an example today to do editing and walk through this process. So on this service area profile page is just a brief overview about your area. So we have the name of the area, we have the division, which I for us here. We have reporting year, which means we started our planning in 2014-15, and that means we go for 1, 2, 3 annual years, and then we get to the end of cycle review right here, which is like this big review where it's like looking at all your outcomes assessment to see what was effective, what wasn't, and then make plans for the next 3 years. And because this is so big, we don't need to talk about this right now unless you're doing your end of cycle. But no one needs to worry about that right now because we're just focused on what's happening. Next, your administrative oversight. So this is the person who does your review. So Dr. Stiletti does our review for IER whenever we submit our outcomes assessment. There's my name, because I'm the person who does the reporting for us, and my title. And then a brief description of our service area. It's okay if your description is much shorter than this, like we just need 2 or 3 sentences. And then last, this blue section, professional affiliations. So we're going to scroll all the way back up, and I'm going to jump over to the 2017-18 Outcomes Assessment Plan and Report, because this is the report that's going to be due for everyone, either on May 31st or June 30th or July 31st. And what we're going to do is I'm going to go down to talk about each section one at a time, so you can kind of follow along. That this first section I mentioned on my page here on your handout is section 1, service area information. So I'm going to click on service area mission and goals. Just give me instructions because that's what I'm doing right now. And so the first thing that you see is our CCCC strategic plan information. So our mission, our values, and goals. And the reason that we have this here is because you're supposed to connect what you're doing in your department and the mission of your department with the overall mission and goals of the college. So, the mission for CCCC is that we serve as a catalyst for individual, community, and economic development by empowerment through accessible lifelong learning. Okay, so if you scroll down here, you next see the service area mission of our department. And then we have X's here to say which of the institutional goals do we support in our department. And it's okay, you don't have to click all of them, because especially like this one for financial foundations, not everyone helps with financial foundation footprints. So you just click the ones that match these institutional goals here that your service area or your instructional area supports. Here, there's another prompt, how does your mission support the institutional goals, with a brief phrase. So this is more concrete of how you are supporting the goals. So this is your overall mission over here, and then this is just some more scrolling down here, this is where we start getting into this big picture. What are your really big things that your department promises to do? Because the thing with outcomes and assessment, you don't have to assess everything all the time. You just need to assess somewhere between 3 and 6 outcomes every year. And that's been established by you and the person that you report to. But there are still other things you can that you're not assessing. So this is basically that big promise here. So we do planning and review. We do state and federal regulations and accreditation. We're a data provider. We do research. We help with QEP. We do institutional strategic planning. And then we serve as an internal and external stakeholder as a central CCCC resource for accreditation planning. So that's just a summary of kind of everything. And the reason why these are yellow, because I'm saying that I'm connecting these yellow ones to the smaller outcomes we'll talk about in just a second that we're actually assessing every year. Again, we have these X marks for which institutional goals we support, and then some brief information. So this brief phrase, this is really needed. It's the one that's highlighted. So I'm going to scroll back up now. Now, there are different ways that you can use Compliance Assist. One, you can hit the tab and go back to the main table of contents page. Or you can use these green arrows up here in the upper right-hand corner to go forward or backwards with the table of contents. So instead of going to the table of contents and clicking on service area outcome number 1, I just clicked on the arrows to get to this page. So from here it says state the intended service area outcome. So remember, this is the smaller outcome. This is just this little thing that we're looking at for 3 years at a time, and we're looking at annually. And this will be the first year that we'll report this. So this one says IER will increase outreach in order to kids wide understanding of IER functions. And then from here, remember that service area goal we just looked at on the other page where I said it was highlighted? So this is what goes here. So that's serve internal and external stakeholders as the central CCCC resource for accreditation, planning, and research needs. So big picture one, smaller, more bite-sized one. So next, how are we actually going to assess this? We're going to use the College Services Survey, and we're going to do a quick question on here. And College Services Survey, that's the one that goes out to faculty and staff only. People have a question about that sometimes because it doesn't say faculty and staff surveys. Next, we're going to look at the criteria for success. So our target for that, 90% of the respondents will say that they strongly agree that IER will, 90% of respondents will strongly agree to the survey question that we put on the College's Services survey. And so that's again related to outreach and whether people know what we do in campus. next thing is getting down here and actually editing these boxes, because usually you set this up once, section where it says narrative, you set it up once for 3 years and you never really edit that again. But this section down here, you will edit every year. And just a brief reminder of how you actually get down here to edit. You scroll all the way up. And remember, this red bar across the top is really important. And then if you go over here on the right-hand side, the drop down where it says options, you can go down to edit item. So from here, the first thing that you see is the click here for instructions. So you can skip that. And then you go down here to the narrative page. Okay, so when I look at this box, the first thing that I see is that this box is too small for me, and this drives me absolutely nuts. Okay? So you can make this box bigger by looking at this tiny little triangle over here on the right-hand side, and pulling it straight down to make this box as big or small as you want. Because then that allows you not to have to scroll within scrolling. And what I mean by that is I can scroll on the right side, and then I can also scroll here. Okay, I probably work with compliance more than you all do. Okay, so heading back, the next thing I'll do once we look at our college services survey question for this year, I will go in here and I can type in the questionnaires or the answers here. So I'm going to hope that it's 93%, and I actually think it is 93%. And because our goal was 90%, and I think it's 93%, I can say that yes, this was met for sure. From here, the next thing that you have to fill out is this blue box that says closing the loop. So, closing the loop means using the assessment results to make improvements. And this question is, how did you close the loop last year? Please upload documentation. Before I talk about this, let me also mention the next box so I can compare it to you. The next box says, how do you plan to close the loop next year? Now, you all remember that when I pointed out SAC-COC their new cycle that they shared with us of how you act as an assessment. Step number 5 was making use of assessment data or closing the loop. And that's what they're asking us to do right here. And this is the most important part about this assessment, which is if I wanted to increase outreach and I go to the college services survey and I find out that only 70% of people know what we do and know how we can serve them, that's an issue. I haven't met my goal. So I would come in here and make a plan. How can I? So when you're getting started, you're only going to respond to this box the first year. So how do you plan to close the loop? So what you're basically saying is, I'm talking about the 17-18 school year, and I promise in the 18-19 school year, this is how we're going to make things better. This is how we're going to let people know more about IER. And so we're trying to do that by, doing trivia contests on staff announcements. By the way, sorry, I did not mean to plug this, but I'm going to plug this. So it's only 5 questions, and you don't have to get all the questions right. But if you just you're entered into a drawing for a $15 shopping spree at the bookstore. And we're actually going with this month's winner this afternoon. Shopping for $15. I find that amusing. So that's one way that we're doing outreach. We're also planning to go see more departments and let them know what we do and ask them how can we help them. So we're actively working on this. Okay, so everything I just said here, that is my plan. How do we plan to close the loop next year? Now say this is our first year of reporting, which is why we don't have anything in 16-17. You just completed 3 years of reporting with last year. So that's why nothing else is there. So where it says, how did you close the loop last year? Please upload documentation. Every year you make a promise of this is what we're planning to do next year. This is how we're going to improve things. And then the following year, you actually say what you did and how you improved things. And you upload documentation. So sometimes what I see from people is basically copy and pasting verbatim from the year before and here, just because they did everything that they promised they were going to do. But sometimes people hit speed bumps or someone leaves in the department of one, and how do you deal with that? And they will address that here. Another important aspect of this is when you're saying how did you close the report is including documentation. So for us, it's really easy. We're just going to upload a sheet that says, date. This is the date that we did a certain outreach activity. We either went out and we did a presentation, we went to a department meeting, we did a trivia contest. It doesn't have to be onerous to report it here. Like, it doesn't have to be hard. And you can recycle something you're already doing, to show that you're in order to upload that, you scroll all the way down to the bottom, and this little box right here that says supporting documents, it's say upload file. You can hit select, and then you can scroll through and find the document to upload. I don't have a sample one with me, but if I did, I would click that. It would appear and say I have a little green box. You want to upload it, you say yes, and come down here to upload files. And so that's how you actually upload this documentation on this page to show that how you post it. Okay, so I'm going to pause for just a second because I feel like that's a lot of words, a lot of information. What questions do you have up to this point? You good? Okay, great. Okay, on this page, this part where it says save and close is really, really important. You have some different options between save and close, and cancel. Unless you don't want to keep anything, I would not suggest clicking the cancel button because we can't get any feedback if you haven't saved anything during the process. So while you're updating, you hit save. And when you're ready to be done with it for the day, you hit save and close. So when I hit save and close, it says, do you want to check this item in? And I say, yes, I want to check it in. Because like, imagine it's a library, like you're returning it back in. Because if you don't do this and we use something to say, you check it out, what will happen is, you guys don't know this, but we actually spend a lot of time with Compliance Assist trying to improve the videos, make it better, or answer something when you call or email us. So if it's not checked in, like I can't go in there and edit anything, just remember to check it in. Every once in a while, we have people who leave the college and they leave all their stuff checked out, and so that's interesting. Like we have to override it, and hopefully we don't lose anything because that's what will happen if we have to override it. So yes, definitely check it in. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the 2017-18 outputs and stuff. I'm going to scroll down to quality and viability criteria, and then from here you can see we don't have anything on the enrolled curriculum student survey or the graduate survey because, let's be real, students have no idea what IER does. We're still working on faculty and staff to know what IER does. So yeah, we don't have anything on the surveys. We do have our faculty and staff satisfaction. The minimum for everyone on campus is 80%. Again, the deal is that everyone gets over 93%. And we are super excited that even though, okay, so this one was 88%, and the reason that the target was met because it was at least 88%. But over time, it's improved, and we're 96% for the last 3 years. So that's wonderful. Okay, so remember, as IER, we went in and added this data for you all, so you all have similar data for you. But the part I need you to do is all the parts in blue that we have not done this year. So when we go in and say how many professional development hours were provided by your area, you're only required to do 1 professional development hour, where you're teaching someone in your area how to but we do a lot of training, so we have up to 23 last year, we 26 more. So we just put that number in there and say yes. We don't have any other surveys that talk about IER, but if you do, this is a great place to. And then any other assessments that you do, you can do this in there. The most important part on this entire page is this section down here where it says, comments concerning achievements and challenges, and how you plan to use these results to future improvements in your service areas. So in other words, you're going to say, if we got, like, so for example, when we had 92.5%, that's when our department was a department of design, and that was not enough people. So one way that we made improvements between 2014 and 2016 is to add another person. So you can see that it jumped 4 percentage points by being able to add another person. In other words, you're just responding here of, you see the data, what are you going to do about the data? Are you going to make improvements, or are you going to stay the course? for accomplishments and innovations. So I mentioned this before, like if you have any new methods or processes, if you have new technology, new funding, new equipment or facilities, new innovations, other accomplishments. Now I feel all of these are pretty self-explanatory except for new funding. We sometimes get questions about that. So new funding is if you've gone out and you've gotten a grant or something like that. It's not if Dr. Price gave you more funds. You know, so it's a way of highlighting that you've gone out. I just realized that that was me cutting, guys. I'm so sorry. So we talked about section 4. Section 5, this is unique to service areas and it's not in instructional programs. So this is facilities. So this is where are you located and what spaces do you have. So when I go and update this, because all of this is blanked out because we're in the first year of our 3-year cycle, we'll say that you're only located on the Lehman campus and our designated space is a suite in science building. So that's it. That's the only thing that's going for us. Other people have like a really, really long list. And my personal favorite is Ronnie Messimer's, where he says everywhere. Because he's worth everything. Scrolling down, next is your budget request. And everywhere. Okay, we have not put our budget request in here yet. These are due on or before June 15th in Compliance Assist. Just a reminder, this is so exciting. So, we are in the 17-18 tab. We're in the 17-18 tab making a budget request for the 18-19 year. And this, I understand, this is so confusing. And we're actually doing things to make it a little better in the future. But for now, just remember, you're in the 17-18 year, reporting on this year, asking for money for next year. Besides that and the due date, that's about all I know about budget requests. So if you have any other questions, you can talk to Dr. Price about it. But yes, that is the extent of my knowledge. And then last, we have reviewer feedback. So from here, your reviewer will go through and look at this rubric to see if each area is beginning, established, or exemplary, and you can read through this on your own. I'll read it out to you. And then they come down here and they answer these sections. So outcomes, are they beginning, established, or exemplary, and then comments. Sometimes, especially if an area is established or exemplary, the reviewer comments are very small. But if people have 8 places to work on, and remember this is a process of continuous improvement, they put suggestions in here on ways your program or ways your service areas can actually tweak the actual outcome or the actual assessment for the target. And that's something I see a lot. Sometimes people will be really conservative and say, my target is 75% of something. I see a lot of comments where the reviewers say, bump that up because that's not a high enough target. But again, that's between you and your reviewer. I don't have any say in that. So I think 75%, I think 75% is our baseline. And then yeah, they just keep going through and commenting where you all are and
we should be able to see your comments.
You will be. Now, with that being said, I need to go back to the reporting calendar because I have to remember when those are due. So their feedback is not due until October 15th. So it can be a little ways. However, with that being said, every reviewer is different, and I know that there's some reviewers who, as soon as they know that their service area or their instructional area is done, they go in and like the next day they review everything. But it just depends on like what their schedule is and all of that. So, and sometimes people meet with their reviewer and talk about their compliance assist page. Sometimes you just see their comments and then people send emails. So it's done in a wide variety of ways. Okay, folks, I know that was a ton of thoughts. So what questions do you all have at this moment?
But I should be able to go back and see my supervisor's comments from last year.
And actually, same for your case. Yeah. it might not be your supervisor, because I think it's your vice president who does yours, because I don't remember. Do you report to Ashley? Is that right? Heather. Oh, never mind. Heather is like super on top of things, and she always reviews everyone's stuff. So I know they're in there.
Like, so everybody's gonna be on the same 3-year period, and we don't do
Okay. So there is a change to how we report outcomes and assessment. And I wasn't going to talk about it today, but I will. It's okay because you asked, and I want to share information. We didn't want to confuse everyone, but we are changing how we're doing outcomes and assessment. And let me bring this up. It's easier to explain it this way rather than. Okay, so we're changing the format of outcomes and assessment reporting going forward. Because we got a lot of feedback from people that is confusing, it's really hard to toggle back and forth between all those tabs all the time, because it means you have to go back for 16, 17 and say, what did I promise I was going to do for closing the loop? And then go to 17, 18, put it in there, and then actually respond with what you did in 17. So it's just too much. There's too much going on. So what we're doing starting with the 18, 19 school year is we're going to have a tab where it's just 3 years. All in one tab rather than each individual reporting year. What else are we doing? So next, your program outcomes are going to be the same because they're going to change a lot. Your student learning outcomes or your service area outcomes are only going to be in one link. Remember we talked about before there were like 6 different outcome links over 3 tabs. So that was 18 links to talk about the same thing. Now it's just one link. Administrative outcomes in your instructional area, again, it's gone down from 3 links over 3 tabs just to 1 link. And then from here, we have our quality and viability criteria data. So for instructional programs, we have program data, we have advisory committee updates, and then we have department specific specialists. And I'll scroll down so you all can see what this is going to look like.
we see it like this. It's got to be the summer, or
Yeah.
okay.
So here's the deal. Once you complete your outcomes and assessment for 17, 18, it's like you get to level up and we unlock your new tab for you. But we didn't want anyone to get confused.
It's like Mario or something.
It's exactly like Mario. So we didn't want anyone to get confused about that because we've had more tabs open previously and it caused issues. So yes, as soon as you complete yours, then you can. You can see that the outcomes and assessment looks slightly different than they did before as far as the formatting goes. It's this nice horizontal bar. So you have 3 years here. You have your stated intended SLO. You have your program outcomes. So again, instead of it being stacked before, it's nice and horizontal. You have your method for SLO assessment, your target. And then you have your 3 years broken out here of results met or not met with the number here. And then we talk about closing the loop. So it says, how did you close the loop last year? Upload out. Since everyone is starting over, we're resetting all the cycles for everyone. This one's going to be NA for the first year because you can't report on something if it wasn't an outcome year. But you can say, how do you plan to close the loop next year? And what's great about this is after you plan to close the loop here, next year you'll come back and you can quickly say, did I do all those things that I promised? And then you report here, how did you close the loop in 1920? So did you do the things you promised? And so it's just kind of like this checkerboard pattern. And you'll end up in 2021 saying, how do you plan to close the next year? And as you can see, you'll scroll through and you have student learning outcome number 1 here, student learning outcome number 2, and then there's 6 outcomes on it. We can expand it if you need more outcomes than that. We can just add more boxes. Any questions about this part? We're excited about it. Next, advisory committee updates. If you're in an instructional area, you have this already. This is exactly what it looks like right now. The only difference is you'll see the 18-19 page up here, and then when you scroll down, you'll have 19-20. And just imagine that it keeps going, like 1 year, 2 years, 3 next departmental discussions, it's going to be vertical, so 18, 20, 2021. The only thing that I did change since I made this PDF is right now it just says comments. And that's not very helpful because you need to comment on 3 separate years. So now it says comments for 18, 19, 19, 20, 2021. So that will be easier for next accomplishments and innovations is the same thing. The same box we had before, just 3 years in one blank rather than over 3 different tabs. Next, the biggest change is the program review assessment. We've gotten a lot of feedback from reviewers. It is very difficult for them to review outcomes and assessment in Compliance Assist while having the page open somewhere else, typing, were they exemplary, were they beginner, were they any of those things, because it gets really confusing to have to go back and forth. Because at some point you're just like, what am I looking at? If you have like 20 different things you review, and how does that work? So what we've done is we've made a blank PDF that looks like this, that they can edit and reuse over and over and over again, and edit this, save it, and then upload it back to the page. So that we're hoping will make it easier for people, because we did get feedback that a PDF would make their lives better. I think that's about it for the changes. Do you guys have any other thoughts about it? Okay. Just remember, once you finish this year's report, that's when you get to see next year's. And we try to track on a weekly basis, but it's a lot to keep up with. So if you finish yours and you want a new one right away, just send me an email and we can.
A whole bunch of changes, or are you guys just going to copy our previous stuff over for us?
I forgot something. Thank you, Marianne. Okay, so everyone gets to talk with their reviewer, so your dean or your vice president, to determine what you're going to do with outcomes and assessments for 2018 for 2018 for 2021. Because you can either keep the outcomes you have right now and carry them for another 3 years, or you can choose all new outcomes and start completely from scratch. Either way is fine with us. It's just a matter of what you want to do. If you want to keep the outcomes you've had before and you don't have time to do the physical transfer of it, send us an email and we will do the physical transfer for you. But you have to be very clear, like, I want to keep student learning outcomes 1, 2, and 4, or I want to keep all my student learning outcomes, or any number of things, and we can move the information over for you. But we're not automatically going to do that, because I know in some cases people are planning to whatever your outcomes is. Well, I think that's about it. Thank you all so much for coming. I hope it was informational, and we will talk again.
Thank you, Ms. Amy.
You don't get me. Darn.
Because I told them.
I guess I should go, huh?
That's right.
Before I'm late to the next meeting, too.
Just add that as a dual major
Today's a day of
and
meetings, what can I say? So,
Thank you very much, Lee. I appreciate it.
if you just wants to ask some questions and stuff, and that kind of stuff.
We'll just know what to do.
Learning how to do that.
Yeah.